The big news on Tuesday going into Wednesday was, of course, Caleb Williams transferring to USC. Today, Lincoln Riley was talking to almost everybody about his USC class. It features Caleb Williams. Okay. He was the 14th player to this 2022 cycle for them, the 13th transfer of a 14-person class that features not just Williams, but former OU players Mario Williams and Latrell McCutcheon, and of course, half the 2021 Oklahoma staff. Now, shouts to Caleb Williams, who tweeted a graphic of him donning the USC stuff, and you can see the G-Funk was very well represented, but hey, look at me. Look at me. I saw NWA or half of NWA on that graphic. I seen Cube. I seen Dre. Take it back though. Put Easy on that graphic. Put MC Ren on that. Put Yella on that graphic. Don't play with me. No, don't play with me. You can't have Snoop on that and not talk about what Snoop was doing in the 90s. Play with me. Okay? I know who school USC is. Okay? Nah, I'm not. Look. I lived through the Bush years like everybody else. Love and respect Matt Leinart, but don't you play with me by putting Cube and Dre on that and being like, yeah, USC. Nah, I want to see the West Side connect. Show up. Show me what the Coliseum was talking about when the Raiders was playing at the Coliseum. All right. With Williams joining the 2022 recruiting class at SC and probably being the week 1 starter, we all think SC is supposed to be good. And the reason I say we all think is twofold. The first one is on January 13th, Fox Bet had USC as a plus 8,000 favorite to win the national championship. The same morning that Caleb Williams let us all know he is going to SC, the odds fell to plus 3,500. Now, for those of y'all that are not wise to bookmaking, bookmakers are not interested in picking winners. Bookmakers are interested in winning. They are not interested in losing. So, they looked at Caleb Williams going to USC, looked at how we reacted to Caleb Williams going into the portal, and then perhaps coming out of USC, and adjusted the odds to reflect, hey, the public believes USC ought to be good in 2022. So they have odds that reflect our feeling and our propensity to perhaps pick USC to be good. Now, what you need to know is that football people, myself included, are like, yeah, I think they're going to be stout offensively. They're going to have Caleb Williams. They're going to have Jake Smith. They're going to have Mario Williams. They're going to have Gary Bryant Jr. They're going to have dudes at the skill positions. There's still a question about what the offensive line is going to look like. And if I was the offensive line, I would be keeping all y'all's tweets as receipts and nailing them to the wall in the locker room. But the real problem for SC was the same problem at Oklahoma. What the hell's the defense going to do? I'm serious. Like, that's not shade. Now, Alex Grinch flipped around Oklahoma into a top 25 defense at one point. That ain't going to win you no national championship. As a matter of fact, Brent Venables said earlier today at his signing day presser, we'll talk about here in a little bit, you don't win championships by outscoring people. You win championships by stopping other people from scoring. And nobody can tell you the truth of that more than an Oklahoma fan. I was five-man look. When Lincoln Riley was the head coach at Oklahoma, averaging 42 points a game like it was nothing, putting up 50 on people. The problem was people would put 50 up on Oklahoma. Now, if that's what happens at SC, yeah, you're going to be good. And I think they ought to be good. I think it's anywhere from 8 to 10, right? Now, Utah's going to have some stuff to say about this. I'm interested to see what Oregon looks like, but 8 to 10. But they also have a really cool schedule. They got Fresno State with Jake Hayner returning. They got Utah. They've got Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. That's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm not saying pump the brakes on USC. I'm saying listen when we say you got to get the defense right. And that's where the work is, okay? But Caleb Williams also, you'll note, is great when you can run the football. Oklahoma wasn't always able to run the football, okay? But when it was able to run the football, yeah, that dude was lighting people up. I want to see what they're going to look like when they get a run game back at USC, and it won't be that long, right? Can you sustain? It's also offensive line, right? Offensive line. But shouts to Caleb. Caleb's cool. I really enjoy him. I'm going to look forward to watching him play wherever he plays. I root for the kids. Yes, SC also went 4-8 last year. You have to say it. You have to say it. It's a monumental task. Okay. The other part about this Lincoln Riley day, where he's doing the car wash, he's talking to local media, he's talking to ESPN, getting on the shows, is he had some things to say about the transfer portal, which is interesting because Lincoln Riley and USC had the number 1 transfer class in 2022, which is a thing, right? We would have not thought of that as a thing if not for April 2021 when the NCAA said, hey, look, everybody gets transferred one time without sitting out a year. Now it's a thing to have a transfer class. That's great. But he said, quote, and I'm going to read this at length, the portal changed the way college football operates. At some point, we'll have to put in some guardrails to ensure when it happen or when it can happen, when it can't happen, so players and staff are a little bit more on the same page. Right now, it's so open-ended that I think it is difficult for players, difficult for coaches, building rosters, trying to project for the future. The ill effects of that, when you start looking down at high school athlete and how many of these scholarships are actually going to players in high school, is concerning. So I think so much has changed. There's a lot of really good, smart people in college football that care about the sport. I think a lot of those people need to get together as we have a chance to assess all that's happened. And I think we can put together a plan that gives everybody flexibility that they want, but also maintains kind of the integrity of building a roster and being able to use all the different channels to do that in a positive way. A lot to unpack there. So allow me, because I had some time to sit here and think about this. It's not that the NCAA does not have smart people. It's not that there aren't smart people at athletic departments and athletic directors and conference commissioners and people of that sort, because many of those folks have law degrees and have worked very hard to get to where they are, and they didn't get there by being stupid. And I really resent that that's where we are, where we'll just call somebody stupid. No, it's not that. People have beliefs and people have ways of thinking, and they work within systems. That doesn't make them stupid. In fact, it makes them smarter than most of us. Problem with this, though, is the NCAA has little appetite to limit the movement of student athletes, right? And the reason for this is Alston versus NCAA, okay, the U.S. Supreme Court case from last year. That was a case in which the Supreme Court said there's no reasonable difference between college and professional sports in limiting educational benefits that college athletes can receive. On this show, I'm making jokes about how Georgia's going to give all of their players Alienware laptops, which is a top-of-the-line gaming laptop, one that I have. Shouts to me, who has been destroying Metroid Dread. But Justice Neil Gorsuch, wrote in his opinion for the court that the NCAA, quote, seeks immunity from normal operation of antitrust laws, end quote. Saw no reason to grant the NCAA immunity from the antitrust law for the sake of, quote, amateurism. Okay? This is where the rub is, because Gorsuch is letting the NCAA know where it stands if there is a challenge to the NCAA's antitrust portion of pay for play. Okay? So, for instance, going back to Lane Kiffin, talking about salary caps. To have a salary cap, you must first have a collective bargaining agreement. Before having a collective bargaining agreement, you must first have a union to bargain with. And any union is going to cape for fair pay for its labor. The labor would be the players, which would mean the universities themselves would be fitting the bill to pay the players to play sports. Now, many of you understand that most sports do not generate a profit. Football does. Some basketball does. Fewer baseball teams do, but outside of that, everybody else is operating at a loss. The idea here being that sports is part of the education of going to a university, except it's not, because they give scholarships for being good at football. They also give scholarships for being good at academics. They rarely give scholarships for both. And when you go to one of those places, you're usually not playing for championships like Princeton, like Yale, like Dartmouth. You understand what I'm saying here? We have already come to understand big-time college football programs court big-time college football recruits, not just to win, but to put into the NFL to become millionaire alumnus who might think about giving some of those millions back to the school. At the center of all this is a university system that continues to print money, along with conferences who negotiate the television contracts on their behalf. If you limit the movement of players by saying who can do what in the portal without limiting the coaches' movement from one school to another or capping their pay, you're going to have an antitrust suit on your hands. And there are lots of attorneys who are looking for a way into this because it will be a windfall and it will be a landmark case if and when it should happen. So the NCAA is tiptoeing around this, hoping that at the federal level, somebody comes up with regulation that the NCAA has to answer to. It's probably not going to go that way because everybody has an opinion about this and states have their own laws. It's just a big mess, but it gets messier if you try to stop these kids from transferring schools, no matter the consequences. So for now, manage your roster, $10 million head coach, and stop complaining. My goodness. We got more $10 million whiny people than we've ever had. My good. If you told any other one of us, hey, you get to be the head coach of a football team. Oh, yeah? What's the pay? $10 million. I'm not going to be yelling at you about whether or not I can find kids to put on scholarship. My God. How do you get through to someone like that? Go to work, do a job. That's American. Go to work, do a job. Goodness me. Thanks for watching this video. And remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 ranked show YouTube channel.